I will tell you how I overcame my fear of speaking English. The first thing I did to overcome my fear of speaking English is that I identified all the fears that are residing within me and preventing me from speaking English. The list of my fears is a bit long, but I will tell you some of them. I was scared about making mistakes. I was scared about being judged. I was scared about forgetting words when speaking English. I always had this frightening thought of what if I fumble over my words when I speak English. So the list of my fears goes on and on. What I am telling you is that I identified all the fears that prevent me from speaking English. Once I identified all these fears, the second thing I did was identify the reason behind all these fears. The main reason behind all these fears was nothing but my habit of comparing myself to others. I used to compare myself a lot with people who could speak English fluently. It is such a toxic habit that we all need to avoid. It will destroy our mental peace and make us unhappy all throughout our lives. So it's better to leave this habit as soon as possible. I was stuck in this comparison habit for a longer period of time. I used to fill my mind with unnecessary regrets just by comparing myself with people who are fluent in English. Whenever I see people who are good with their English communication skills, I used to think like, oh, how fluent they are. How fluent they are in English. How attractive they sound when they speak English. They are better than me. They have good vocabulary. But my English is not good. My vocabulary is not as strong as theirs. My accent is not as good as theirs. I am unable to pronounce words as how they pronounce words. So I compared myself to others for everything. This constant comparison had gradually created a lot of limiting beliefs in my mind. I started believing that I would never be able to speak English because I was not born and brought up in an English speaking environment. I am not habituated to speaking this language. So it would be difficult for me to learn and speak this language. I also thought that English grammar rules were very hard to understand. So I would make a lot of mistakes if I tried to speak that language and people would laugh at me. So a lot of limiting beliefs got accumulated in my mind because of this constant comparison. This intensified my fear of speaking English more and more. And that's not all. This habit of comparison also made me a self-doubting and low self-esteemed person with severe inferiority complex. It always made me feel inferior to others when it came to interacting with people. I became ashamed of expressing myself in English. I was not at all confident enough to face people and speak something in English. Finally, I realized that all the fears that prevent me from speaking English are all because of my habit of comparison. So the next step was to eradicate this habit of comparison from my life and thereby overcome my fears of speaking English. But that wasn't very easy because comparison is a natural human behavior. We cannot completely eradicate it from our lives. But what we can do is we can be aware of its consequences and reduce its influence on us. See, we won't be able to speak English until and unless we stop comparing ourselves with others. If you have that hunger and thirst to speak this language, then you should immediately stop comparing yourself with others. You must also understand that every human being is different. Our circumstances are also totally different. Some people are fluent in English, which may be because they are coming from an English speaking environment. But we are learning this language completely from the scratch. So the situations are different, right? Imagine you started learning English together with your friend on the same day. But after a few days, if your friend starts speaking English better than you, then it's natural that you tend to compare yourself with your friend. Here, we have to admit the fact that everybody has their own pace for learning things. Some can learn everything quickly. Some are quick learners. They can learn everything quickly, but some cannot. We may be slow learners, but that's absolutely okay. That doesn't mean that we are weak and incapable of speaking English. No. Our way of learning is different from others. That's all. In this situation, what you have to do is, instead of comparing yourself with others, just be yourself, okay? Instead of comparing yourself with others and accumulating regrets, just be yourself. Stick with your learning and understand the things at your own pace. Focus only on your learning and track your progress every single day rather than worrying about how others are learning faster than you. Be yourself. Put sincere and consistent effort into learning English. Don't compare yourself with others. Your English communication skills will definitely improve once you stop comparing yourself to others. Whenever the thoughts of comparison come to your mind, suppress them instead of surrendering to them and continue with your English learning in your own comfortable way. Now, coming to the last point, that is the most important one. Facing your fears. Face your fears. That is the only way to overcome our fear of speaking English. Start speaking English without caring about your accent, pronunciation, and the mistakes you make. Dare to speak English with people or in public with all your imperfections, no matter what. Get ready to be laughed at. Be ready to face all the judgments and humiliations from people. But don't let these humiliations or judgments stop you from speaking English. Accept the judgments from people with a positive mindset. When people point out your mistakes, take it positively and correct your mistakes so that the next time we will be able to speak better than before. Continue to speak English in your own way. Make mistakes. Give people a chance to correct you. Because that is when we come to know about the areas where we need improvement. So we can correct our mistakes and move on. Everything is going to get better as you go along. Your accent, your pronunciation, and the mistakes you make, everything is going to be refined as you continue speaking English. So face your fears. Speak English with all your imperfections. Make mistakes, correct mistakes, and learn from your mistakes. So these are the 4 steps that I followed to overcome my fear of speaking English. So first, you identify all the fears that prevent you from speaking English. Next, identify the reason behind all your fears and work on eliminating that. If it is a habit of comparison, then stop comparing yourself to others. And lastly, face your fears. That is the most important one. Whatever your fear is, just face it. When you keep on facing it, gradually you will come out of the clutches of all your fears and start speaking English fluently. I hope you will find value in this video. Bye.